I hadn't been to my grandfather's place in almost 10 years. It smelled the same, old wood, tobacco, and something vaguely metallic, but it felt different now. The air was still, heavy with silence. I came to escape, needing a place where Ryan couldn't reach me, where the arguments and the distance could fade into the background for a while. Grandpa greeted me with a grunt and a long stare. He looked older than I remembered, with thinner hair and eyes that stayed too long on my face like he was trying to read something I didn't even know I was hiding. He said I reminded him of Grandma. Not just in looks, he kept saying, "You've got her way." I didn't know what that meant, but I let it go. He wasn't the affectionate type. But something about him now felt off. Not dangerous, just odd. Like he was acting out a script he didn't quite believe in anymore. Scooby, his dog, was the opposite. Big, brown, always in my space. Licked my hand the second I stepped through the door. I didn't mind. He was the only one in the house who seemed genuinely happy to see me. Grandpa talked to him more than to me. "She's back," he'd whisper to the dog, like I wasn't in the room. "Let's see if she's still got that spirit." The second night, I noticed the camera. Black, old, mounted on a tripod in the corner of the living room. It wasn't hidden. It was angled toward the couch like it was meant to be seen. I asked about it. Grandpa shrugged. "Don't touch it," he said. "It's just for memory." That made no sense. Memory of what? He didn't elaborate. I let it slide. I was here to breathe, not to get tangled in whatever habits he'd picked up in his solitude. Still, something about that camera stayed with me. The red standby light blinked once when I walked past. Just once. By the third day, Grandpa started suggesting things. "Why don't you take Scooby for a walk in the garden like you used to? Or, you could help me set up the camera sometime." I declined politely. But he wasn't really asking. He was watching. One morning, I came downstairs and found a breakfast already made for me. 2 eggs, buttered toast, and black coffee. He never cooked before. "Big day," he said. "Let's make something worth remembering." I smiled, confused. "What do you mean?" He just pointed toward the living room. "Camera's ready." That night, I heard Scooby scratching at my door. When I opened it, he ran to the bed, circled, and laid down. I didn't have the heart to push him off. I lay beside him, eyes on the ceiling, feeling more seen by that dog than by the man I'd been with for 2 years. Ryan hadn't called. Not once. Just a cold message 2 days ago saying he needed time to figure things out. I turned over to Scooby. "At least you're loyal," I whispered. The red light blinked again. Ryan's last message stayed unread. I saw the preview. "I just think we need space right now." I didn't need to open it to know what it meant. We were already living in different cities, but now the emotional gap was permanent. He hadn't called, hadn't even asked how I was settling in. That silence didn't hurt like it should have. It just confirmed what I already knew. We were done pretending. My phone stayed off for most of the day. I wandered around the house, restless. Grandpa was in the shed, tinkering. I found myself near the shelves where he kept old VHS tapes, labeled in faded ink. I pulled one at random. May 2003. The footage was boring: birds, trees, a walk through the garden. Another was just him talking to the camera, saying vague things like, "They always forget the good parts." His voice had a softness I didn't recognize. Not for anyone alive, probably. Later, he called me into the living room. The camera was on again, quietly humming. "Sit," he said. "Just talk. Like a diary. People do that now, right?" I didn't move. "Why?" He shrugged. "Therapy. Or memory. Same thing." I gave in. Maybe he was just trying to bond in the only way he knew. I sat down and started talking, not knowing what I was saying. It was awkward. I spoke about the weather, then about Ryan, then stopped. Grandpa didn't comment. Just listened from the hallway. When I was done, he nodded. "Good. We'll do more tomorrow." That night, he made me brush Scooby. He likes the attention. Makes him feel close. I knelt beside the dog and ran the brush through his fur. It was strangely calming, grounding. I found myself talking to Scooby the way I hadn't talked to anyone in weeks. About the way Ryan stopped holding me. How I missed being touched without asking for it. The dog just lay there, breathing softly, warm against my leg. Grandpa began leaving subtle suggestions. A red sweater folded neatly on my bed. "Wear this for the next recording," he said. "You always looked good in red." I ignored it at first, but I wore it anyway. Out of habit. Out of boredom. Or maybe because someone noticed something about me, even if it was just the color I looked good in. During the next recording, I spoke more freely. Told the camera how I felt unseen. Unwanted. That Ryan hadn't looked me in the eye the last time we were together. That I'd faked every last "I love you" for the past 3 months. I said it to the lens, but I meant it for me. For whoever I was becoming here. Afterward, Grandpa smiled. "Told you it helps." I nodded, unsure. Something inside me had shifted. Not broken, not healed. Just looser. Lighter. But heavier, too. I stopped asking questions. I started listening more. And every night, Scooby curled beside me like a constant. Like a truth I could still touch. The light on the camera didn't blink anymore. It stayed on. He hadn't been to my grandfather's place after dinner in almost 10 years. His voice wasn't a request. It smelled the same. Just a sentence hanging in the air. Tobacco and something vaguely more out of habit now than thought. But it felt different now. The camera was already on, pointed where it always was. Silence. He gestured for me to escape. I needing a place where Ryan couldn't reach me. I stopped where the arguments and the distance. He handed me a slip of paper. The background for a while. "Read this," he said. Grandpa greeted me with a few lines and a long something stare. About truth. He looked older than I remembered. With thinner hair and eyes that it wasn't too long on my face. It like sounded he was trying to read something I read didn't even know I was hiding. Then looked at him. He said I reminded him of Grandma. "Now just talk. Not just in looks." "Say what's inside." He kept saying. "You've got her way." I looked at the lens. I didn't know what that meant. Black. But I let it go. Staring. He wasn't the affectionate type. First something about him now felt how he made me feel invisible. Not dangerous. How his silence taught me more than his words ever did. Like he was acting out a script he didn't quite believe in anymore. About Scooby, how she used to hum when she was cooked. The opposite. How I didn't understand what she gave always up for this in my life. Space. My voice licked my hand the second I stepped through the door, but from something heavier. He was the only one in the house. Then he said, genuinely "Don't just happy to see me. Show them who you are." Talked to him more than to me. I didn't know what that meant. "She's back." He didn't explain. He'd whisper to the dog. Just stood like I wasn't behind the camera, watching. Let's see if she still got that spirit. The room was too still. The second night, I felt my pulse in my throat. Black. My fingers clenched in my lap. Mounted on a tripod lying near the couch of the living room. Present. It wasn't hidden, like he always was. It was angled toward the couch. I pulled like the red sweater to be seen. I don't know why. I asked about it. Not for Grandpa shrugged. Not for the camera. "Don't touch it," he said. Maybe just to feel something against my skin that made no someone's expectation. Memory of what? I sat still. He didn't elaborate. Bare shoulders I let against the fabric of the couch. I was here to breathe. The air felt sharp. Not to get tangled. I started in whatever speaking again. He'd picked up in solitude. I talked about me. Something about that camera, about craving something that sees the red standby light blinked once when I walked past. About the difference between being touched by the third day. Grandpa started being with someone and being used by them. "Why don't you take Scooby for a walk in the garden like you used to?" My voice didn't even shake. "You could help me set up the camera sometime." It was too far past pain for that. I declined politely. Scooby stirred beside me, but his presence wasn't strange anymore. He was watching. It was the only thing that felt solid. I came downstairs. I reached down to breakfast already made for me. 2 eggs, buttered toast, pressed into my black coffee. Warm, he never cooked before. His breath steady. "Big day," he said. The camera stayed quiet, something worth remembering. I felt its weight like a second pair of eyes. Confused. Grandpa said one word. He just pointed toward the living room. That was it. "Camera's ready." I got up slowly and walked out of the frame. I heard Scooby scratching at my door. Camera. When I opened didn't speak to him. He ran to the bed, upstairs, circled, shut the door, and laid down, and stood in the dark. I didn't have the heart to push him off. My reflection beside him, mirror, looked calm, eyes on the ceiling, too calm, feeling more seen by that dog than by the man I'd been with and realized there was no line at all. Ryan hadn't called. The red sweater lay on the floor beside the bed. Just a cold message. Scooby curled up at the foot like nothing to figure things out. Maybe nothing. I turned over to Scooby. Maybe at least you're loyal. I lay down. The red light blinked again, and tried to remember who I was before I arrived. I saw the preview. I left before sunrise. I just think we need space right now. No goodbye, no. I didn't need to open it to know what it meant. Just walked out with my backpack and we were already living in different cities. He hadn't bothered to hide. But now the emotional gap didn't make a sound. Permanent. Scooby didn't follow. Hadn't even asked. He knew I wasn't coming back. The road out was quiet, hurt like it should have. Just gravel crunching under my steps. It just confirmed what I already knew. We were done pretending. I didn't look back. My phone stayed off for most of the day. The train ride felt like a blur. I wandered around the house. I watched the trees pass, but my mind stayed stuck in that living room. I found myself near the shelves where he kept the way my voice sounded different when I listened back to the recording. I
pulled
played
one
it
at
once,
random, just
May
once,
2003,
with headphones on in a bathroom
footage
stall
was
at the
boring,
station.
birds,
Not to hear what
trees,
I'd
a
said,
walk through the
but
garden.
to see if it really
Another
happened.
was just him talking
It
to the
did.
camera,
My
saying
voice
vague
was
things
steady.
like, they
My
always
breathing
forget the good
slow.
parts.
I sounded like
His
someone
voice had
who
a
knew
softness
exactly what
I
she was
didn't
doing.
recognize.
That scared
Not
me
for
more
anyone
than
alive,
anything else.
probably.
Ryan
Later,
called the next
he
day.
called me into the living
for missed
room.
calls.
The camera
Then
was
a
on
text.
again. Can we talk?
Quietly humming.
I miss you.
Sit, he said.
I didn't answer.
Just talk. Not
Like
because
a diary.
I wanted to punish
People
him.
do that now,
but
right?
because
I didn't
I
know
didn't
how to
move.
speak to someone
Why?
who hadn't seen what
He
I'd
shrugged.
become. I
Therapy.
couldn't shrink back
Or
into
memory.
that version of me.
Same thing.
The one who waited.
I gave in.
The one who
Maybe
begged.
he was just trying to
That
bond
girl was
in
gone.
the only way he
A
knew.
week later,
I sat
Grandpa
down
died.
and started talking.
Natural causes.
Not knowing what I was
No
saying.
drama.
It was awkward.
Just faded out
I
like
spoke
a
about
light
the weather,
at the end of a
then
hallway.
about Ryan.
The
then
call came
stopped.
from a neighbor
Grandpa
who handled
didn't
the
comment.
arrangements.
Just
I
listened
said
from
thank
the
you
hallway
and hung up.
When I was done,
I
he
didn't
nodded.
cry.
Good.
I felt
We'll
nothing.
do more tomorrow.
Maybe relief.
That night,
Maybe
he
guilt
made me
for
brush
feeling
Scooby.
relief.
He
I
likes
found
the
one more
attention.
tape tucked
Makes
inside
him
the sweater
feel
drawer.
close. A label
I
with
knelt
my name
beside
on
the dog,
it, nothing else,
and ran the brush
I played
through
it
his
on my
fur.
laptop. It was strangely
He was sitting in the
calming,
same chair
grounding.
he always used for recordings.
I found myself talking
Face
to
hard,
Scooby the way
voice
I hadn't
low.
talked to anyone in
You're more
weeks.
like her
About
than
the way
I ever
Ryan
said.
stopped holding me.
Stronger.
How I miss being
But
touched
strength
without
comes
asking
with
for
hunger.
it. The
You'll
dog
learn that
just lay
soon.
there,
Then
breathing
he looked
softly,
straight into the camera
warm
and
against
said,
my leg.
"We all want to be
Grandpa
seen
began
before we
leaving subtle
disappear."
suggestions.
That was it.
A red sweater
End of
folded
message.
neatly on my
I
bed.
didn't tell anyone.
Wear this for the
Not
next
about the
recording,
camera.
he said. Not about
You
the
always
recordings.
looked good in red.
Not about the sweater
I ignored it
or
at
the
first,
way I
but
changed
I
in
wore
that
it
house.
anyway.
Some
Out of
things
habit.
aren't meant to be
Out
shared.
of boredom.
Some
Or
stories
maybe
stay
because
locked in
someone
memory.
noticed something about
Not
me.
because they're shameful,
Even if it was just the
but
color
because
I looked
no one
good
would
in.
understand
During
the
the
truth
next
without
recording,
twisting
I
it
spoke
into
more
something
freely.
uglier. Told the
Scooby
camera
was
how
given
I felt
away
unseen,
to a family upstate.
unwanted.
I asked
that
where,
Ryan
then
hadn't
deleted
looked
the
me
message.
in the eye the
I
last
didn't want to
time we
know.
were together.
It felt
that I'd
wrong
faked
to track
every
something
last
that had
I
been part
love
of that
you for the
place,
past
of
3
that version
months.
of me.
I said it
kept
to the
dreaming
lens,
of him,
but I
though,
meant it for me.
curled beside
for
me,
whoever I was
always
becoming
watching,
here.
always
Afterward,
quiet.
Grandpa
One
smiled.
night,
I
told you
burned
it
the
helps.
SD card.
I
No
nodded,
ceremony.
unsure.
No
Something
words.
inside me had
Just
shifted.
flame. Not
It
broken,
melted
not
fast.
healed.
I watched it
Just
turn black
looser,
and bend
lighter,
in the fire,
but
like
heavier,
it was never
too.
meant to last.
I stopped
When
asking
it was gone,
questions.
I felt empty.
I started listening
clean
more.
almost.
And every
Lighter.
night,
Infidelity
Scooby curled
isn't
beside
just
me like a
between
constant.
lovers.
Like
Sometimes,
a truth I
it's
could
between
still
who you
touch.
are and
the
who
light
you
on the
become
camera
when no
didn't
one's
blink
looking
anymore. It stayed on.